Well, I'm certainly looking at the price of the indices, but the other catalyst, I want to see leading stocks start to gain again. And I'd say by far the leader this year was Nvidia, and when we look at that one, we can see that that's certainly in some sort of correction. It's basing, and I want to see a stock like Nvidia start to come back.
And I also sold half of my position in Nvidia this week based on the weakness there. I know this one's on a lot of people's antenna, but I felt like the stock needs a rest, and this is gonna probably, my guess is gonna wage a battle between the bulls and the bears around 400. Even if it cuts 403, yeah, there you go. That's a really great line to be watching closely. If it breaks that line with force, then you just have to imagine that there could be a magnet toward the 200-day moving average, which is just back above 300. So that's something to be very wary about, and make sure that, depending on when you bought it and what your profit cushion is, to be very, very cautious and not letting a lot of that slip away.
That makes sense, Dave. What are your thoughts on the fact that this is marking a 3-week losing streak for Nvidia for the first time since this breakout that sparked the massive run that's led the market this year and caught a lot of attention?
Allie, that's it's a great observation. As simple as it may sound, you can just tell that the character of this 2 or 3 week decline is unusual since the breakout from that cup base back in the first quarter of 2023, right? We had that very classic run up from the breakout in a high quality stock, 1 week down in above average volume, but then that was in the first quarter. Then we had 3 big up weeks. Those 2 down weeks were in light volume, and they were relatively tight trading weeks too. From low to high, and it behaved above. It held above that 10-week line. So now we have clearly more volatility in the stock. You go back a month. Look at those. Look at that 3-week down out of 4 weeks. That 3rd week down out of a 4-week period in August led to that first close below the 10-week moving average. So even before this 3-week pullback, we obviously saw some serious profit taking. You've got 6,178 mutual funds. You're not even counting the banks, insurers, pension plans, and sovereign wealth funds who might be owning Nvidia. So you know that someone is selling and taking profits because the weekly changes, especially on the downside, showed higher volume on that week versus the prior week. So, right now at this point, it's interesting to me. Finally, I want to make this point, Allie, is that in this 3-week decline, it's clearly enough to create a base, but the volume in these past 3 weeks has been relatively light. Let's keep an eye on that and see whether we see even more volume come in, because maybe we might have a shakeout around 400, and then the long-term bullish players in the market will come support the stock, but we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, so a bit of a silver lining there with the volume profile. Also, Eric, if we need to sharpen up our watch list, and if we can see some positive action in 3 or 4 weeks time, that would be enough potentially for the right side or bottom first and right side of a base to form for Nvidia here. What are your thoughts on that potential?
And I agree. And I think David pointed out, that's key to me that the last 3 up weeks were all in above average volume. And then the 3 corrective weeks are in below average volume. And I have a feeling that if this were 2 years from now and we had Bill O'Neill looking at a long-term chart, he might say, something like, well, see, that's just a garden variety correction. You went below the 50, you based for 5 to 7 weeks, and then you broke out. I mean, it's painful when you're in it. And I'm a big holder of Nvidia. And like Chris, I've hedged my positions. It's one of those things where we don't like it when we're in it and we don't know how far is down. But looking at the greatest winners of all time, you look at those charts and it's no surprise to see like 3 weeks down, right? And low volume. And then we always look backwards and say, gee, that was a clue. It's still a leader because it came back in heavier volume. So, could it break down and go worse? Sure. But right now it looks like a garden variety correction from a stock that broke out near 180 and went up to 500.
Right.
we
deserves a
shouldn't be
bit of a
surprised.
rest.
I can hear Bill in my ear saying you shouldn't be surprised after a gain like that it corrects 25%.
Me too, Eric. Me too.
Yeah.
And
Always
when you
good.
look back to that prior base, it was 3 weeks
Yep,
down, and
that's
then
what
it turned and started the run.